Well, good morning. It is, I know, it's a Wednesday. It's the 19th of May, and have you dried out yet? Some crazy storms across the area. Say it's going to rain till, I think, July here in Houston. Yes, it'll rain till July. And if you haven't bought an ark yet, you may want to look into getting one. Brittany Pacheco, you need an ark, Brittany, because I know a guy.
Is it the biblical Noah?
Yeah, no, there you go. Yeah.
That thunder. It was a thunder for me last night that got me jumping. So I had my thunder buddy with me. She was knocked out though, so wasn't much comfort for him.
Well, mine weren't sleeping at all. They were not having a good evening. It was rolling because we're a little bit higher, so it was rolling through. And lightning is pretty terrifying for little dogs in a building where you're up in the air. So just for future note and reference.
Yeah, one thing that might help your dog's Todd, and this is off tangent, take them to a shooting range. That way they can get used to the noise.
Yeah, I think tequila would help them too, but I'm not allowed to give them that.
God. Moving on.
All right.
This is not what today's show is about. But before we do get into today's show, I do want to remind everyone to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also hit that notification bell so you can be the first to find out the latest uploads from us. Now, to our audience, we would really appreciate it if you hit that share button at the bottom of this podcast. That way we can not only grow our audience, but just share this great information to those who may not be following us. And Todd, that tequila idea sounds really great right now.
Yeah, that's frowned upon during work hours. Okay, so just a note once again.
Just saying, I need some kind of pick me up this morning because man, last night was rough. But anyway, Let's get into today's show.
Okay, thanks, Brittany. Stick around. Stay away from the tequila, at least for the next few minutes or so. All right, we've got a great show for you in the next half hour. Your HCC news and information. Brittany will be back with some announcements shortly. But we've got two special guests. One of them joins us twice a month with fitness tips, especially if you're looking at running. He's a former HCC grad, and he's also a doctor out in the San Francisco area. Dr. Christopher Segler, foot and ankle surgeon. Good morning, Chris. How are you?
Hey, good morning. I'm doing great. Glad to be on today.
Good to see you. We're looking forward to getting some fitness tips and talking about some injuries you may want to watch out for. So stick around, Chris. We'll check in with you shortly. We're going to take you out to Coleman College virtually right now. We've got Dr. Min He. She is the professor of Histologic Technician Program at HCC's Coleman College for Health Sciences. Good morning, Dr. He. How are you? Well, if we can get you to unmute your microphone.
Oh, sorry.
There we go. We can hear you. Good morning.
Yeah, this is something like I have to remember. Yeah, I'm pretty good. Yeah, glad to join you here.
Good to have you with us. Now, we've talked with you before about the Histologic Technician Program. People may be wondering, wow, that's a long name. What exactly do histologic technicians do?
So like you just mentioned, if you see my background, actually that is our lab. I have a wonderful student. Actually, she already graduated 2 years ago. And so then that's what we do. We are working in the lab. We process the human tissue, and then we make slides, and then give to doctors and the pathologists will read it, and then make a diagnosis. That's pretty much what we do.
And so would you be part of maybe finding cures for certain illnesses or diseases? Do you play a role in cancer research?
Yes, definitely. So we are the critical role in the diagnostic field. So we provide those information to doctors, and then they make a diagnosis and also help doctors find all those biomarkers so then they can specifically treat like certain types of cancer, or not just the cancer, and any other type of pathological disease.
You mentioned about the student in the picture behind you, and she had graduated a couple of years ago. Where do your students wind up working? Do they go work for hospitals, for pharmacy companies, medicine? What exactly, where would they find their roles in the workforce?
So actually, they have a very wide, option after they graduate. So most of the students would like to work for the hospital because that's where the major diagnostic information is needed. And also they can work for the pharmaceutical company like a research university, and also the medical examiner office, and the veteran hospital. Pretty much wherever needs the diagnosis, then they will find their job there.
Is there a high demand for these jobs, especially, with Coleman being in the heart of the Texas Medical Center? Is there a high demand for these jobs locally in the Houston area?
Yes, it's still a demanding field. So like I see, pretty year round, I will receive the request from like a hospital or, the university, and then they ask, okay, do you have any student are searching for the job? And then if they are interested, then they are searching for the histotechnician. Yes.
So your students, it sounds like, are finding jobs really while they're still completing the program. Is that the case?
Yes. So more often is like see for their last semester, like a spring right now. And pretty much most of my students already got a job offer. They're just waiting like after graduated and then pass their license exam, then they got certified, then they can start work. Even some students, they start working before they graduate, but then they cannot work as a histotechnician, but they can work as a lab assistant. So that's the case.
How long does it take to complete this program? Is it a stackable degree? Can you get an associate's degree? Do you need to move on to a 4-year degree? How does that work?
So our student will get an associate degree, and it takes 5 semesters. And then they don't have to get a bachelor degree to get a job. But then, if the students are interested in for their first career development, then they can get their bachelor degree. Like even some of my students are interested in become pathologist assistant. That is a master degree. And if some students are interested in eventually they want to become a medical doctor, they can also keep pursuing their career development.
And for how have things been operating in the whole age of COVID here? I know a lot of things being done online. Are you guys back into Coleman? Are your students out there working in the field? What does that look like for your current students?
So it is a challenge. It's a big challenge for us. So, the histology is a very practical field. Then they have to really go into the lab and the practice, then they will learn. Like we're riding a bicycle. When we learn how to ride a bicycle, you have to get on the bicycle, then you can learn how to ride it, right? So no matter how many times you watch the video, if you don't really do it, then you don't learn it. So then we keep the lecture online, but our lab is in person. And then for our clinical practice, we already resume all the clinical practice. So they are working in the field. But then that's where we really apply the safety rules, make sure it's safe, right? So that safety is the top priority. So, but we still wanted to keep our quality. So then that's how we adjust our curriculum right now.
For folks who are interested in enrolling in your program, is now a good time? Do they have to get on a waiting list? Where would they start and how would they do so?
So right now it is a good time to apply. And so then they just need to go to the HCC website and submit their application online. So then they can find all the admission requirement there and the process. So then they will stand in the line. And normally the waiting list will depend, so some years we have more applicants, some years we don't have that much applicants. I really cannot tell how many, people will be in the waiting list. But then that's a good way for them to turn in their application as early as possible. So then they can start prepare them. Then they can start this fall.
So now's a good time. If you're interested in getting into the program, now's a good time to enroll and start the process. You have to do so. We'll have some links in the social media post for the show to let you know about the program and where you can enroll. Dr. Min He of the Histologic Technician Program, thanks for being here on the show.
It's great being here. So thank you for gave me the opportunity to talk to the student and promote our program.
Thank you. We'll talk to you soon. Stay safe.
Yeah, thank you. Mm-hmm.
All right, we're going to move on to Dr. Christopher Segler. Chris, you heard the interview with Dr. He. I imagine being a doctor, you send things off to the lab quite often, and you would probably have use for histologic technicians in your field as well.
Oh, yeah, every day. I have a biopsy I'm actually collecting from a patient today. So exactly what that's all about. Yeah, so this is certainly something that's in demand, no question. And that is not going to go away anytime soon.
Let's talk about, you join us on the show twice a month to talk about running injuries. And here's the thing that's a big conundrum for me. I know you have to keep your training at a certain level to keep in shape. But if you hurt yourself and you take some time off, from what I'm reading in your notes, you could lose your fitness pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but we do lose fitness very quickly. And I remember years ago on some sort of business podcast or investment podcast or something, I heard this thing that was a Japanese proverb, supposedly. And it basically says that, saving money is like digging with a nail, but spending money is like pouring water on sand.
Wow.
And, and that's true. And fitness is the same way. Unfortunately, we can work for years to build marathon or Ironman fitness bases that actually carry us through those events. But when you get injured, it is incredible how quickly you lose it, and there's some pretty huge reductions. In 1 week, if you have to use crutches and a fracture walking boot or a cast, you get a 17% reduction in the muscle diameter size on that lower extremity in just 1 week. And at 4 weeks, it's actually 60%. And so, these are real measures that show you how important it is to avoid those injuries in the first place.
Yeah. And so how do you avoid that? Because my big fear is taking that long time off. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I talked to you about an injury I had, and I took your advice. I took off a full day, even though your sister kept telling me, you don't want to run today? I'm like, no, I just talked to Chris. He said, take the day off, rest it. I may run this afternoon. No, just rest it. And the rest actually helped. And I haven't dealt with that injury in a couple of weeks. So obviously rest is a big way to avoid these, but what are the tips that you would give people?
Yeah. So I was just last week, I was lecturing at the International Foot and Ankle Foundation meeting, and one of the doctors actually asked me, well, what's the best way to avoid these injuries? And I said, in large part, it's the same things that we know actually heals people when they're injured. And we as physicians understand that, but we don't really think of it as healing in between these workouts that we do. You think of it as going to have fun, right? Running, along Buffalo Bayou or at Memorial Park or whatever. And although those are restorative events, they're actually taxing on your system, and you have to make sure that you avoid the errors that actually lead to injury. Now, when you train for an event, if you make your own training plan, or if you hire a coach who gives you a training plan, you have a specific schedule of things to do. And the biggest thing, like the number one thing that I think causes running injuries in people that I see, is that they made training errors. Let's say you sign up for the Houston Marathon. It's your first marathon. It's a big event. You've got a lot of anxiety and fear about not actually finishing or not doing well. And, you have all these expectations, and that anxiety goes for months. And what often happens is that we create a training plan, or we get a training plan. Some of us post it on a refrigerator or by our desk or someplace where we'll see it and be reminded of all the work we have to do. And you actually become convinced that if you don't hit every one of those workouts, you won't finish the marathon.
Right.
Now, of course, that's absurd. You're talking about months of training, like missing a day here or there is just not going to affect you. But we don't believe that. And so what happens a lot of the time is something happens, like there are torrential rains in Houston and you can't go run because you don't have a treadmill at home, and it's pouring rain and you're not going to go run when it's flooding. That's just right. You're not going to.
Right.
Or you get a really busy work project, or you have a family emergency or something. And people, have these events that happen, they're life events, and they miss a couple of workouts, and then they make the big mistake. They actually take their rest days and they turn those into added training days, and try to take those workouts off the calendar and move them into those empty rest days. And then you have back-to-back hard training days that lead to overtraining and consequent injury. And that's really the biggest thing, is just deviating from your plan. It's pretty easy to avoid, but it's hard psychologically to do, truthfully.
Well, another thing too, and we talked about this, I think, in one of your first shows, is having the right gear and proper tennis shoes. One thing I always tell people when I run, and I think I got this from you, is, I don't skimp in buying running shoes. I don't. I spend the money and I wear several shoes and I rotate them, because you know what? I hurt my foot or my leg and I'm out for months, or I could be.
That's exactly right. And, you don't really feel it happening. This is the problem, right? It's like car tires. I mean, you get car tires, they're brand new, they're fine, whatever. And then, you're driving on a day like today when it's pouring rain, and suddenly you feel your car start sliding when you're hydroplaning. And then it's because the tires are worn out, right? They don't have enough tread. and you have a serious problem all of a sudden. And running shoes are the same. You know, the material in the midsole, the cushioning material that's called EVA or ethyl vinyl acetate, it absorbs impact, but it absorbs that impact a lot like a bicycle helmet. If you're in a crash with a bicycle helmet, it crushes the styrofoam in the helmet to absorb that impact instead of your head absorbing that impact. But when you do that, you damage it, and it doesn't fit right. It's cracked, it's smashed, whatever, but it's not going to protect you the next time. And when you run, 500 or 600 miles in your running shoes, well, they're different. And the best test for this is to take your old running shoes and go to a running shoe store, get the exact same model that they currently have available, same style, same make, everything, put them on, and just walk around the store. And you'll be astonished if you have one on one foot and one on the other. They feel like completely different kinds of shoes. But it just tells you that the EVA is worn out and you've destroyed the ability of the shoe to actually hold you in a corrected, stable position and protect you with cushioning.
A lot of us are getting older, and I'd like to run for another 10 plus years. But I do find that I don't run the way I did 10 years ago. And if I stop for, a few days, it takes me longer to get back up there. What's the best way to combat that with keeping a good training regimen, but also taking proper rest and keeping in mind that, hey, I'm not as young as I was 10 years ago?
Well, this is the thing, we do this to ourselves. I mean, we basically take several days off because we get exhausted. And the best thing is consistency, no question. So, you need consistent effort in training, and you need consistent rest and rejuvenation. And, I always say that sleep is the cheapest, most abundant, and most underutilized resource available to runners in training. We think that it's something that takes time. I mean, many of us, will actually sleep less to get more work accomplished, or, at our basically at the risk of our training and overall health. But we don't really give it the respect that it deserves. And so, making sure that when you do hard workouts, when you do something that definitely feels like a workout, like a long run or a speed session or something, that you really take extra care to make sure that you get real sleep after that. And sometimes it's hard. I mean, on these hard training days, a lot of times you can have a lot of inflammation and stuff, and it makes you feel kind of keyed up, and it's kind of hard to actually go to sleep at night. So it is tough, but it has to be prioritized.
So we talked a bit about running shoes and how to tell the difference. We're going to talk more about those next time.
Yeah. So, just basic running shoe evaluation and selection, I think are, really helpful, because when you go to the running shoe store, no matter where you go in and there's an entire wall of shoes. Yeah. Well, which one is right for you? And, people always ask me, which running shoes do you use? I always say I use the best running shoes for me. But that's not the same as what's best for you. And it's not the best for somebody with really flat feet or really high arches. And we're going to talk about those keys to sort of looking at running shoes and trying to decide whether or not it's going to be really helpful for you and appropriate for you, your foot type, and what you're doing.
His name is Dr. Christopher Segler. He's known as Doc-on-the-Run. He's a former HCC grad, and he's now practicing now in the San Francisco area. If you'd like to get a hold of Chris, he has a newsletter he sends out electronically on a daily basis. He's got a podcast, and we'll give you some information in the social media posts to get Chris's tips. Thanks for being here, Chris.
All right. Thanks for having me on. Stay dry.
Okay. We'll see you next time. All right, we're going to move on to Brittany. I saw you shaking your head during the last interview, Brittany, especially when it got to the point of getting enough sleep. Are you training for a race? Because you were all excited about, getting proper rest.
Listen, we never truly catch up on sleep. So if I can try to get as much sleep as I possibly can, I will. I definitely do not sacrifice my sleep just so that I can work late. Let me just put that out there. Okay.
All right. Well, I know, but you're still a trooper, Brittany. Hey, our HCC news and announcement, we've got something exciting going on because, our Coleman students have been heavily involved with vaccinating the community, and they're about to hold another event. And this time it's going to be on a couple of HCC campuses, and it's really for faculty, staff, and anyone who needs the COVID shot.
Yeah, that's right, Todd. So as you mentioned, HCC Acres Homes and Central Campus are COVID vaccination sites for the first shot of the Pfizer vaccine, which will be at no cost to the public. So the shots will be given by the Texas National Guard in partnership with the Texas Department of Emergency Management. Now that's going on Wednesday through Saturday, May 19th. So it starts today through the 22nd. That's 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Once again, starting today all the way through the 22nd, which is Saturday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. at our HCC Acres Homes and HCC Central Campus. Now, the second dose of the vaccine will be administered at the same locations, but in a month, or not quite a month or so, but June 9th through 12th from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Walk-ins and drive-ups are encouraged with no appointment necessary. So all full-time, part-time, and adjunct faculty and staff who receive a vaccine at these locations during scheduled work hours will not be charged leave. Now, there was an email from Talent Engagement that went out about that. So just be sure to check your HCCS emails for more information about that leave for getting your shot.
Yeah, the good thing about this is you not only get your first shot, but you know when you can get the second one. Because I know when the vaccines started coming out, people just rushed to get their first shot, and then they were getting past that window. Many cases were wondering, can I get the second vaccine? Where do I go get it? Is it the same one as the first? Can I get a different kind? And you really can't. I know when I got my first dose, I signed up and they told me where I could go to get the second dose on a scheduled time. So we're doing that for the community. So if you're wondering about the 2 doses, we've got you covered here.
Yeah, definitely. It was the same experience for me when I went to get my Pfizer shots. It was even before I got my first shot, it was like, okay, let's schedule your second shot. Yep. It's going to be here. You have this day to choose from. What time would you like to come in? So I'm really happy that HCC is also taking part in this for our community members. And, you don't have to worry about how long you have to wait until you get your second shot. So this is a great opportunity. It is free. Be sure to take part in this if you already haven't gotten your vaccine. So
yep, it's one way of doing so. Okay, MBDA virtual subs and sandwiches. They used to, way before COVID, they'd actually hold events in person and they'd bring sandwiches for everybody. Well, of course, we're doing things virtually now, but HCC's Minority Business Development Association, they're still getting together for business to business matching, targeting minority business enterprises. Bring your own subs though, okay? Or a cup of coffee or any sandwich you would like. The next one is happening today, May the 19th, 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. is the time. Check our events calendar to register, but it is happening today. Okay, we're going to be returning to campuses. That's a well-known fact. And there's 3 W's you need to look for, Brittany.
That's right. So HCC's move forward with summer classes. Reopening plans have been developed for faculty and staff to begin partial in-person attendance on May 24th. So according to our chancellor, everyone must remember the 3 W's when we reopen campuses. That's wear masks, wash hands often, and watch your social distancing. Yeah. So those are the 3 W's. Again, wear your mask, wash hands often, and watch your social distancing. So we will be returning partially once again, May 24th. And we all still need to do our part to make sure that we don't spread this virus.
Yeah. And, the elephant in the room now is, of course, the order that was released, the information that was released by the governor yesterday. Of course, Governor Greg Abbott has announced that starting early June, that government facilities would not be required or cannot enforce mask rules. We will get more information on that. So keep in mind, as we get more information, the chancellor will send out an email. You'll get an email talking about our procedures. But right now, that is the information we have. That is what we're going to go with until we get more information from our administration. So please keep that in mind. And you could voluntarily wear masks. I know a lot of us do when we go places in public anyway. All right, discover your path. That is one thing that we can talk about learning academic and workforce programs, and we've got a way for people to learn about them.
That's right. When you decide it's time to start or come back to college, the next big decision is choosing what to study. But you don't have to discover your path at HCC alone. Now, as someone who is a first-generation college student, this is very true. So learn about our 200 plus academic and workforce programs. This Saturday, May 22nd at 10:30 a.m. We're going to include a link for this Discover Your Path event so that you can register, and we'll put that link in the post after this show.
All right, so we're going to Memorial Day. That's coming up. So keep in mind, Brittany's very excited about this.
Oh, yes. I am doing my happy dance.
Yeah, she's very excited about it. So Memorial Day happens a week from Monday. So we'll have a 3-day weekend, but we will not have a show on that day because we're allowed to take a day off too. So keep that in mind. No show on Memorial Day. We'll remind you all next week as well. So keep that in mind. And we're also going to be delaying the show a week from today. We're going to be delaying it till 11 a.m. because of a forum that the Chancellor's Office is having for a Vice Chancellor candidate. We'll have more on that, but we will delay this show to 11 a.m. a week from today. So keep that in mind. And registration's open for the summer and the fall, Brittany.
That's right. Registration is still underway for summer. You still have time to register for your classes. Now, keep in mind that we have been talking about this for a long time about the face-to-face classes being offered in the summer. They are going to be much smaller and very limited. So registering early is, of course, crucial, not just for the summer, but just for all semesters. Now, we do have 5 course options available to our students. That does include the full-time face-to-face classes as well as some hybrid. Those will still be very small, but we also have our online options still available. That's online anytime and online on a schedule. Those hybrid courses that I mentioned earlier are for our lab and just regular lecture classes. And once again, our in-person safe face-to-face courses with traditional meeting patterns. Now, the face-to-face, once again, will begin this summer. And hopefully, we won't see a spike in COVID cases anymore. I do hope eventually we are returning to some normality. However, things obviously can always change, and thus our courses offerings will change as well. So for more information about our HCC programs and to register, head over to hccs.edu/now.
That's right. If we do to return to normal, that means that you're going to have to go to an office. Oh, I want to give you a heads up. I was in the office the other day and I lent out your stapler off your desk. I hope you don't mind. Our new AVC has it. He needed a stapler, so I gave him yours.
It specifically says do not remove.
I told him that. He said he would talk to you about it. So I just want to let you know, when you get back, you can't find your stapler, go to Lyle's office. It's probably
That's hilarious. I actually don't even remember what my desk looks like anymore.
Well, your stapler says something about George on it. George is our photographer, by the way.
Yeah, he used a label maker, one of those old school raised labels that said George is awesome or something like that.
Yeah, it is. That's exactly what it said.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Tomorrow on the show, great show. You remember the Colonial Pipeline was shut down due to hacking? Well, we're going to bring on some experts to talk about this. We've got Samir Saber of our Cybersecurity Division of Digital and IT Center of Excellence. He'll be joining us to talk about cybersecurity. And we'll also have Farish Benton of the Global Energy Center of Excellence to talk about things. I want to know how, when the pipeline shut down, we immediately lost gas. Somebody's going to have to let me know, because I thought gas was delivered from the pipelines by trucks, but let's get into that tomorrow. So we'll talk about logistics as well. Tomorrow, it's just going to have lots of information. And we've also got Virtual Family Fun Day, Brittany.
That's right. So we're continuing our Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month, and that is also in conjunction with our Virtual Family Fun Day guest. She is from India and Houston's Geetha Dance Center. So that's going to be very exciting to participate in.
All right. All that and more tomorrow on the show. Brittany will be back. I'll be back. Hopefully, we'll see you tomorrow live, 10 a.m. on Up to the Minute.